Erdogan told his forces, the Turkish military forces, to get ready. And he said that quietly behind closed doors. The media, the news outlet will not report on this, but there is a significant development that Turkey is getting ready to fight Israeli if they go into Gaza. What is happening right now? I want you to take a listen at this military analyst, Douglas McGregor, and this is exactly what he said.
The Iranians right now seem to think that it's inevitable that we will attack them. They seem to be engaged in preparing themselves for it. The Turks are looking at what's happening, and I think Mr. Erdogan has decided it's pretty clear the Israelis are going to go into Gaza. And so he's quietly told Turkish forces to get ready. He's also got Turkish naval forces not that far from ours in the Mediterranean. They are going to be joined by Russian.
Turkish forces, Russian forces, they're already in the Mediterranean. If you remember, Putin, he actually deployed some of his fighter jets, the military fighter jets, in that region over the Mediterranean Sea. Therefore, it is absolutely clear for all of us to understand, guys, that this is going to escalate more, and he would probably go to war, Erdogan, because the reason for that is because he is ready. He is already there. Before we even could think about this, this is the maneuver, this is the tactic that the Turks, they use, that they will surprise you with an attack. So I'm pretty sure by deploying those kind of warships and fighter jets by Russia, Turkey, and military forces of Russia, that both of them are pretty ready to counter the the Israeli forces. Let's take a listen a little bit more.
These things all suggest that other than Israel, we have no support in the Middle East for whatever we want to do. No one is interested in what we want to do or what we are proposing. What they want to do is stop the invasion of Gaza. Well, the Israelis haven't gone in yet, and I attribute some of that to their concerns about the state of training for the IDF, especially with hundreds of thousands of reservists who aren't very well trained and haven't had much time to prepare. That may be part of it. I don't know what else is on their minds. But if they go into Gaza, then I think all bets are off. And that's why, personally, I was hoping that Biden would go there and then come out and announce that we found a different way forward. We're not going to.
Absolutely. I mean, the attack was a surprise attack on October 7th. And Hamas, they knew that if we give them warning, then of course they're going to come with their force prepared. But Hamas did not do that. And so we are finding IDF forces in this difficult situation where they do not know what to do next. If they would go to Gaza, if they will be staying out of Gaza, they do not know. And on top of all of this, to make things even more confusing for them, we are seeing that U.S. is asking these forces, the IDF forces of Israel, not to invade Gaza, not to do any ground invasion. But obviously, Benjamin Netanyahu, he will also look at his popularity in the country and see if his people will support him, if his people are turning their backs on him on this issue, accusing him of not being able to handle the situation, then there is a good possibility that Netanyahu will do some kind of ground invasion of Gaza, not as a force of the IDF in total. So they will partially attack Gaza, and this is my understanding. Looks like things are not looking good for these people, for the Israeli IDF military.
Introduce thousands of Israeli troops into Gaza. But we haven't heard that. And so I have to plan for the worst. And I think that's the attitude for everybody else in the region. The worst thing that can happen is they go into Gaza and kill more Arabs, not necessarily Hamas. Some will be Hamas, but large numbers of Arabs who just happen to be there.
Absolutely. There will be a lot of damages. There will be a lot of casualties on both sides. If they go into Gaza, as I said in my other video, that Israeli forces, IDF forces, will also face a lot of resistance from the Palestinians, from the people of Gaza, not just from Hamas, but also the entire Palestinian population will be fighting against them. The reason for that is because they already killed almost 7,000 people in Gaza. So why should they not fight? They are actually ready, more than ready to fight these IDF forces. Of course, Erdogan, he is going to be making it absolutely clear in the coming days that his forces are ready for any situation. Even though this person, Douglas McGregor, he's a military analyst, is from U.S. military. Even though he said that he kept these reserve forces ready, and he gave them a hint that you might guys be going into Gaza or fighting Israel. But of course, we know that it is going to be inevitable in the coming days, very, very evident from Turkish part that they are actually now ready to counter Israeli and U.S. forces.
That's unacceptable, and that will bring the rest of the region down on Israel.
A recently published poll by Eurasia Group Foundation found that 58% of Americans think that the U.S. should push for a negotiated end to the war in Ukraine, citing the high humanitarian cost. Meanwhile, 34% want the defense budget to decrease. 16% would like to see more than half, would cut the deficit with more than half. Colonel, what does this mean exactly? Because what it tells me is that people don't want to be involved in wars abroad, and potentially now 2 wars abroad if we include Israel.
Oh, listen, that's spot on. We should pay attention to that poll because that reveals a great deal. I'm sure that if you were to sit some of those Americans down, they would raise the question of why are we spending all of this money overseas and doing nothing for the United States.
And this is so true because this war is becoming very, very unpopular among the U.S. citizens because they do not want to see U.S. dollar taxpayers' money to be spent to kill these Palestinian people. There is a growing number of opinion of people, especially from the young generation, the millennials, who are opposing this war, and they're asking for accountability on Israel's part. So the whole thing is really, in terms of media, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of how the Middle Eastern countries are reacting, they are all going against Israeli and their interest in the region. So what we will see obviously is going to be more pressure on Israel not to invade Gaza, not to do a ground invasion of Gaza, but to continue striking those targets inside of Gaza of the Hamas forces. And how long they can continue. Obviously, if they do continue with this kind of attack, covert operation, if you like, or just targeting those areas of Hamas inside Gaza, then at one point I think it is only going to escalate further because Iran is not going to be sitting quiet, or Hezbollah for that reason. They're not going to sit quiet and do nothing about this. This is the beginning, probably an end of the Zionist state and their influence in the Middle Eastern countries, and most Arab nation, especially the young generation, the population there, they want to do something about this because it's going on for too long. They cannot let this happen of Israeli aggression against the Palestinians, especially on Gaza, for too long. And so we will be seeing some significant changes, some significant developments in the coming days. With Erdogan, now he's very close to actually declaring war against Israel. I think it is time for him to really sit with his cabinet, with his military personnel, and make a plan as to what he will be doing next if in the future Israel tries to attack Gaza. They should have a military plan already in place before it happens again in the future. Obviously, they can make this plan anytime, and they should sit down right now. Actually, not anytime. They should be sitting down right now and hatch a plan against Israel, because Israel is not going to stop. What is happening right now in Gaza by the Israeli oppression, the military, it is going to only continue on.
Where is the benefit to the United States of investing so heavily in this war in Ukraine? Well, there is none. There's no strategic benefit to us at all. And I think Americans sense that, and they look at the border, they look at the crisis that we have there in the Southwest, and generally the crises in the cities, and they all reach the same conclusion. And
absolutely. The war in Ukraine, U.S. dragged itself into this war, right? And so now they're finding in a very difficult, very, very uncomfortable situation. They spent billions of dollars giving Ukraine weapons to fight against Russian forces to no avail. Right now we are seeing the Russian military is pretty much active in Ukraine, and they are actually becoming even more successful every single day. And so U.S., by sending military aid to Ukraine, by getting involved in this war with Russia indirectly, they actually have lost a lot of money. They're going to be losing a lot of money in the future if they continue supporting Israel, because this war is not going to end. So U.S. will keep on sending money, and Israel will keep on spending those money to kill innocent people, and there will be no solution. The last 5 decades, nothing has happened. Israel did not make a good impression to the West or to the states that we are making some development in terms of this dealing with this issue, but there is none. After spending billions and perhaps trillions of dollars, U.S. taxpayers' dollars, Israel has come up with empty-handed, and they're still facing the same situation. So there are a lot of experts, they're saying, the pundit, they're expecting, or they're predicting, I should say, that this is something that U.S. would not continue on forever. And there is this Republican candidate, Ramaswamy, I think his name, he said, we are not going to give free checks to Israel anymore. We will hold them accountable. They need to answer questions. And so this is becoming a growing opinion, where we see people are actually now very, very hesitant in terms of helping Israeli and giving them a free check. We will see what happens, but this is definitely going to be a huge problem. Erdogan is, again, he is rallying his military. He is telling them, get ready. His parliament, he told the other day that he supports Hamas and that they are mujahideen. And so we are going to be seeing something very, very bad, and maybe perhaps a war between Turkey and Israel if Israel, they do not listen to what Erdogan is saying. There is a limit. There is a limit to it.